there's no substitute for putting yourself out there, for hard work, for making sure that you are ready to receive whatever it is that is coming in. This is true. Um I For me it was very profound because I kind of never had that problem. I was a very high achieving kid. I was the person that, I would be out of my house 16 hours a day working in a coffee shop, meeting this person, going the extra mile to this interview, that person, meet this person, send that. I mean, I was always out there trying to do something, trying to make something happen, going into, any situation, just trying to cause something positive in my life to occur.
Welcome back to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where everyday people share the quotes that have shaped their lives, inviting us all to reflect and grow together. Today we're joined by Cameron Cowan, a thoughtful futurist and creative director at the Cameron Journal. With a rich background in writing, politics, and culture, Cameron has a unique ability to weave profound insights from the everyday stories around us. Let's dive into Cameron's world and discover the wisdom that has inspired him on his journey. Tell us your name and what your favorite quote is.
So, my name is Cameron Cowan, and I am creative director of the Cameron Journal, and I'm the author of 4 books, 2 of which are out. One's called Cast Iron, the other one's called An Unfinished Coloring Book. And I also teach writing in private writing coaches and courses through the Cameron Journal Academy.
Okay, so what's your favorite quote?
Well, there's a few. I always gravitate towards the line, like the lines of books and things along those lines. One of my favorite start to any book is from a book called Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by Hunter S. Thompson, and the opening line goes like this: "We were just outside Barstow on the edge of the desert when the drugs began to take hold." That's always one of my kind of favorite starts to a book. For living life, that's not a great way to live your life, trust me. But for living life, one of my favorite quotes is, "The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing," which is attributed to John Adams. And that was in my email signature when I was young, like 17, for a long time, and was kind of always my touchstone in terms of, when no one else cares, when no one else is willing to go and do the thing or solve the problem, be the person that does, basically, And it's a helpful reminder that, evil people can get away with a lot if good people don't do or say anything. Which, given what's going on politically in the United States right now, I feel that quote is prescient to these troublesome days.
Yeah. For me, what surprises me is why is it that good men are quiet when it comes to, but so I was saying, like,
Yes.
why is it that good men don't interfere, don't talk, don't do what they need to do. They just, sit and do nothing.
Well, let's think about that for a moment. There is a risk, in standing up, there's reputation. Sometimes there's violence involved. There can be loss of freedom. It can be financially costly. All of these things are factors, and I think it depends on, how many chips you're willing to put on the table, to use a gambling reference. And the reality is everyone has something to lose, which is why the old saying goes, the most dangerous man is a man who has nothing left to lose. Because then there's no risk to whatever he might do. If you got wife and children and family and all this type of thing, those are, that's risk. There's risks there for you. If you don't have those things, or those have taken away from you, or whatever your situation may be, then you don't have anything to lose anymore. And then things get really weird. So yeah, I think everyone has their own tolerance for risk. And I think one of the things really repressive regimes do, or governments try to do, is to make it too costly for good men to stand up. And that's its own form of sort of quiet repression.
When you say make it too costly for people
Um,
to stand up, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, so if someone wants to speak out against a government, even if it's the local city, like the mayor sort of thing, um, one of the strategies you can do if you are in power and you don't want people to complain about what you're doing is to raise the stakes, sort of thing, make it more dangerous and more costly for people to stand up and speak, so you can demonize the other side. You can, come up with clever nicknames for them that, denigrate and humiliate them in public. You can, repress anyone who talks about what you're doing that might cause people to stand out. Repression of media. You can even get into, jail and imprisoning people over petty offenses because it gets them out of the public for a while. All of those things have been used by different regimes throughout history to suppress voices. And the reality is, if you have a crowd of 1,000 people, even 100 people, and I've made two people's lives miserable because I've repressed them, I've imprisoned two more people, I've damaged reputations of two more people, and I've humiliated two others. And everyone else in that crowd, the incentive for them to step forward goes down, which, because they're looking at all of this. People are not
Yeah,
stupid. They're looking at all of this and they're going to be like, I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want to lose my house, my family, my job, whatever have you. One of the cruel things about today's economic system is there's very little, incentive to stand up against its intrinsic injustices because everyone has too much at stake.
yeah,
If you lose your job, your business, whatever have you, you fall down the ladder and you probably won't make it back. Statistically speaking, you won't make it back up, sort of. And so people look at that and say, I'm going to keep sweet. I'm going to keep quiet. I'm going to go with the flow, all this type of thing, because they don't want to end up, losing it all. So it's, that's, I would say that's probably the most, people always think it's, the heel of a boot or a gun that is the most dangerous thing that represses people, and it's not. It's politics, it's perception, um,
yeah.
it's economy, it's money. Though those things are far more oppressive and far more repressive of people than any of us really imagined or realized.
Has there ever been a time, in your life where now I'm not talking about the global now, right? Like in the small, minute scale, let's say in your job and wherever place you were, where, you're something like that was evil that you needed to speak or talk about or do something about, and it was costly for you.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the situation I'm thinking of, I did not speak out enough and it continued on far longer than it should have. Um, in many cases with my help, um, because of that. Years and years ago now, I worked at this magazine as a fashion editor, and the owner was he was a very contemptuous man. He stole money. He did a lot of drugs with what money we had, and people were not getting paid. And because of that, sort of thing, he was getting money from people to build the business and really just lining his own pockets. And I knew that was sort of going on, but I thought it was limited. Um, and I didn't realize how widespread it was. And I enabled him. I kept the business up and going way longer than it ever would have. Um, because of that, when I really should have been, which was my first instinct and what I did initially was to speak out against it. But here's to bring the conversation full circle. Um, I was young. I started that business when I was 23 years old. Um, and it was the middle of the great financial crisis, so the job market was terrible. Um, and there wasn't a lot of other options, and there wasn't really a place for me elsewhere in the industry where I was at the time, so it was there or nothing. And I very foolishly chose to stay over
Yeah.
nothing because having something was better than having nothing. This is how we start to see this manifest in the world. And the reality is, if I hadn't been there, it would have collapsed probably in about 6, 8 months, and far fewer people would have been hurt. Um, and I kind of kept it up and going for far longer to have something that I thought would, one day grow, one day get there, not because of him, of that man, but but in despite of him. And unfortunately, we all ended up in a terrible situation anyway, and it irreparably changed the trajectories of people's lives, including my own. There are long term,
What was the
yeah.
terrible situation?
Well, I mean, it was very simple. So this guy, he had this magazine. I was hired in to do marketing and fashion, and what he liked to do is he would ask people for money to invest in the business, and rather than spending the money on growing the business or paying his staff, that's us, he would do drugs with it. you know.
Ooh,
And
ooh.
so, yes, and so he basically was using investor money to fuel his drug habit. And the reality is, when I realized this was going on, if I said, look, you're stealing from all of us, I'm not sticking around to be stolen from, and walked out the door without my hard work and my reputation.
Let's take a quick pause. If you're enjoying this conversation and want more thought-provoking ideas straight to your inbox, join the Relatable Wisdom email list. It's free, quick, and filled with bite-sized insights, inspiring quotes, and behind-the-scenes reflections from our guests. Just head to relatablewisdom.com/join. That is relatablewisdom.com/join. Or tap the link in the show notes. And hey, subscribing to the podcast helps more than you think, and it's free. So if you haven't already, hit that follow button wherever you're listening. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
And the fact that people liked me more than him, it would have all fallen apart in 6 months, and it would have been over and people would have moved on. Instead, it lasted for 2.5 years, and I helped make it last 2 years longer than it would have otherwise. And basically it was working myself to death night and day to power a business that was basically his drug money sort of thing. So, but again, when the choice was something or nothing, I very foolishly chose something over nothing, when the reality is, long term, nothing would have been better for a lot of people, including myself. But I mean, it affected the lives of several people whose lives were never the same because of that, and things would have been different if we'd all just, myself first, but all of us just walked out the door. So,
Yeah.
what have we learned from this? Make the hard choice. And that's probably the one thing that holds people back the most is, let's face it, standing up, when you're a good man, standing up to evil can be very costly. Pay it
Exactly.
anyway. Because a decade from now, it will look, the whole thing will look very different. And people's, and people's lives will be different. I mean, it's a very different thing. I mean, that was 13 years ago now. It looks, the calculus today looks very different than it did back then. And you have to believe in yourself, and the other better opportunities with good, honest people will come along. Nothing is worth sacrificing your name and reputation, over it.
Yeah.
It just, and it's a very tough thing, and you have to make hard decisions, and the cost can be high,
Yeah.
but doing the good thing is the better option by far.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that most of the times when we do need to take those necessary steps, most of the times you don't even know what the timeline looks like. It's not like, oh, 10 years, in 10 years, yeah, you should see the result. Sometimes you're not even sure that in your own lifetime you see the results of what you're doing. But you just believe that eventually it will all make sense. But sometimes you might not even live to see it. And that's for most persons is really hard to really fun to comprehend that, oh, what I'm doing has a ripple effect.
Well, and that's where the conversation takes probably maybe a more spiritual angle than for a lot of people. I'm not religious in any sense anymore. I grew up very religious, but I'm not anymore. And a lot of people will say, God keeps the score on that one. One of the signs of a profound person is to do good when no one is watching, and and perhaps only God is watching, and that, I mean, that's compelling for a lot of people. That's people get into their spiritual practice, their religion. If you do something like that, I mean, the reality is in the near term, the results may be very bad for you, but
Yeah,
one hopes in the long term they'll be better. And for some people, it's only up to God, you know. And if you look at, you know, like if you're Catholic, there's the saints, the stories of the saints have a lot of those themes of everyday people doing very extreme things because they believed God had their back on it. Um, and you see that, you know, especially a lot in the Christian religion. You see, you know, like I said in Catholicism with the saints and everything, lots of those types of stories. Great people, people who were not trying to be great when they did something great, they did what they felt was right in tough times.
yeah,
And even for those of us that aren't religious, it's still an important thing to do because that's what makes for a good and decent society.
exactly.
There are millions of people every day that do millions of thankless tasks, but that are very important. Um, and they continue to do them. And it's what makes civilization possible. The people who keep the sewer systems running, the water systems running, repair the roads, you know, make sure the internet is
Yeah,
connected so I can talk to you, you know, make sure the
yeah,
cell phones are working so we can, you know, call our friends and family. I mean, they are doing thankless work when no one is watching. So there's not 50,000 people in a soccer stadium watching someone repair the sewer system, but his job is very important, and if he doesn't do it, we'll all know very
yeah,
soon. And when it comes to morality, it has to be like that. Sometimes you have to do the right thing when no one is watching. And if you can do that, that's a sign of an incredibly profound person. And again, this is where religion is helpful because there's a lot, especially in Christianity, there's a lot of that, you know.
yeah. Earlier on, when I was looking through the form you filled, one of the quotes you wrote there is, "What is for you will not pass you by."
Oh yes.
And I want to know where the context of where this quote is coming from.
I believe it's a quote by um the Rumi, as I recall. So the origin of that quote is actually from my Nana, who's 86. And as I was trying to figure out my young life, one of the things she told me when I was very young, what is for you will not pass you by. What does that mean? It means it's kind of like destiny or fate. Um, if something is meant to happen for you, it will find you no matter what. Because that's the thing you're supposed to do, or that's the thing that's supposed to happen to you, or that's the person you're supposed to meet. No matter where you are, no matter what you do, no matter how far you run, it will come for you.
Yeah,
Now, there are some times when we get involved in something, and it's not for us, and it tends to leave quickly. Or if we walk away from it, it doesn't come find us ever again. It wasn't for us. But on those rare occasions when something is for you, when it is who you are, when it is what you are meant to do, no matter where you go, no matter how far you run, it will always find you. Therefore, what is for you will not pass you by because it's for you. It's like a addressed letter. It will always come to you, no matter where you are, no matter how far or fast you run.
I feel like this quote should have a disclaimer.
Why?
Yeah, because I see that it could be subject to misinterpretation by some persons that, well, I mean, I don't need to stress myself. Like, what is for me will not pass me by. I mean, as I'm in my bedroom just relaxing, the stuff that is meant for me will not pass me by. All the money that is meant for me, it will enter my account. It's not going to pass me by.
I mean,
Yeah,
it is true. There's no substitute for putting yourself out there, for hard work, for making sure that you are ready to receive whatever it is that is coming in. This is true. Um, I For me it was very profound because I kind of never had that problem. I was a very high achieving kid. I was the person that, you know, I would be out of my house 16 hours a day working in a coffee shop, meeting this person, going the extra mile to this interview, that person, meet this person, send that. I mean, I was always out there trying to do something, trying to make something happen, you know, going into, you know, any situation, just trying to cause something positive in my life to occur. I was never one of those that just kind of sat in my house waiting for it to show up. So for me, it was kind of a reminder to, I guess for those of us that kind of are used to being overachievers, it was kind of a lesson in slow down, take a step back, take care of yourself, because what is for you will not pass you by. If you have kind of the opposite problem of that, then I would say, what is for you will not pass you by, but you sure should be in the road when it's going past, shouldn't you?
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
so
That is the
if you're
complete
sitting,
version.
yes, if you're sitting in the house, it may not, but it may not be able to find you for a long time, because it won't knock on the door, sort of thing. So I say, if you're undermotivated, what is you will not pass you by, but best be in the road when it's going past, sort of thing. That way you can
Yeah.
catch it. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, so if you need kind of motivation to get up and do something, and when people like that have trouble getting started with something, and I say this about writing a lot, but even in life, I will say one small thing a day. It's the Japanese principle of Kaizen. Pick one small thing for that project and do that one thing. And then you don't have to worry about it till tomorrow, because you've done your one thing for the day.
Yeah.
However, in time, things accumulate and multiply. So for a lot of people, if they get that one small thing done, that can be a motivation builder to do one more thing tomorrow, one thing, and one becomes two, becomes three, becomes four, as you kind of go down the line. And so for those that are undermotivated, having trouble getting started, all this type of thing, I always say pick one small thing. Even if it's a 10-minute thing, one small move. If you're trying to clean out a junk room in your house, take out one thing a day. But I guarantee you tomorrow you'll take out two things. And then
Yeah.
after that, you'll take out three things. And then pretty soon that room is empty. And maybe you do end up being able to finally build that office you've been meaning to build. Or, start the small sewing business in your house where you're doing business out your side window, sort of thing. Because you're taking in the laundry through the side window, or around the back, sort of thing. I mean, it's that
Yeah.
sort of thing that that adds up. Or if you're trying to go out and meet people, try to go say hello at first, one small thing, hello to one person a day, and then you start to have maybe a little bit longer conversation. You engage a little bit more. If you're trying to build a business, get in an industry, find one small thing to do. Who are you following on social media? Okay, great, follow them for a while. Are you liking, commenting? Are you DMing? If they're going to an event, are you making an effort to go? I remember, speaking of Nigeria, because you're in Nigeria, um, several years ago now. I
Okay.
always love your country because everything happens in a crowd. I featured this Nigerian artist I used to go to this party in Denver called Reggae on the Roof. And there was two groups that showed up, African diaspora and African Americans. So it was just
Okay.
black as hell. But the great thing is they would always bring in, I love world music, I love global music, and they would
Yeah.
always bring in these wonderful African art you've never heard of. Because we're in America, we're in Denver, Colorado, all this sort of thing. And so I knew all these DJs, and this one guy sent me this album from this guy called Road to Lagos, and I loved every track. Was great, no skips, loved it. I mentioned it one time on the Cameron Journal, one time, and I got 300 new followers. People were kind of
Wow.
like, "Oh my God, someone even knows about this guy." Sort of, it was just amazing. But it can something be simple as that one small thing of engaging with one person, following with one person. And people kind of forget, like, sometimes doing that can start to get that groundswell of support. And so if you're wanting to work in tech or healthcare or HR, whatever it is you're trying to do, are you following people in that sphere? Have you read anything about it? Have you done any research about it? Have you figured out what your entrance might be? There's a lot of small steps you can do to get ready to figure out how to do that. And then you're meeting people, you're in the river, you're in the mix, your energy changes, your mindset is changing just by being around it. And then you can find that opportunity. So what is for you will not pass you by, but we're going to be in the street to catch it when it drives up.
Thank
So
you for the revised edition.
yeah, that's
Thank you so much, Cameron.
yeah, that's what gets people up and motivated. And especially when I'm teaching writing, I'm like, write a paragraph, write a sentence, write what you have. You have two scraps of dialogue, great, write those down. That could be important later, sort of thing. And you'd be surprised for some people how even hard that can be. But then those two scraps of dialogue do turn into a paragraph, a scene, a chapter, a book. Great sentences make great paragraphs make great scenes make great chapters make great books.
Thank you so much, Cameron.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for sharing your favorite quotes with me and helping me to make sense of it. It's been a pleasure having you and chatting with you on the podcast. If people want to learn more about you and what you do, where can they do that?
Yes, well, the fastest way is to head over to CameronJournal.com. All my social links are at the top. But if you're on X or Twitter, at Cameron Cowan, if on TikTok at Cameron Journal, Instagram at Cameron Cowan as well, those are all places where I'm hanging out, posting videos, doing social content, and you can, read the latest stuff. And while you're at CameronJournal.com, don't forget to sign up for the newsletter because
Yeah.
it is wonderful, great content, and perhaps I'll post more quotes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing with us
You're
on the
very
podcast.
welcome.
You've been listening to Relatable Wisdom, and I've been your host, Wisdom Okonkwo. You've been listening to the podcast where every story, quote, and insight helps you see life a little differently. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow the show on your favorite podcast app and share it with someone who loved the conversation. For more inspiring voices and timeless wisdom, visit relatablewisdom.com. Until next time, keep living, learning, and collecting wisdom that matters most to you.